With Chris Autman-Bell out, it is next man up mentality, but how do you fill the void? How do you replace such an important player on the field? That's what we're talking about today on Locked On Golden Gophers.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota
Whatever
Golden
turns out,
Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And be sure to follow us wherever you find podcasts at Locked On Golden Gophers. And be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube. Join the community that we are building. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know how you're feeling about the show. Let us know how you're feeling about the Gophers. And we're going to continue to build this thing from the ground up. So thank you so much for listening. And today we're talking about the injury to Chris Autman-Bell, or Crab, and how it impacts us, what he brought to the team, not only on the field but off the field. And how do you fill that void? How do you supplement losing your wide receiver one? Today's show is brought to us by BetOnline, where the game starts. They bring you more props, more lines, and more odds than ever before. Now let's jump in to the impact of Chris Autman-Bell's injury. Replacing Crab is going to be very difficult task when it comes to this team. Crab is an all-around receiver who can play on the outside in the slot. He is great and wins in the screen game. He's a clean route runner. He can win jump balls, and he's good at separating. He's good at creating separation between himself and the defender. I mean, the only knock on his game, maybe, and it's not even a knock, is that he doesn't necessarily have blazing speed, but he doesn't necessarily need it with all the aspects that I just told you about. He's already good at creating separation even without elite speed. So that isn't to say he's slow, because he's not slow at all. He holds his own. But he's got an all-around game, and it's just going to be really tough. It's not just on the field as well, but it's the leadership that he brings to this team, and it's a major aspect to this team. His energy, his swagger, it's infectious. He picks others up. He helps coach other players up, not only on the field but on the sidelines. And that's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to replace by one sole player. Heck, it's going to be difficult to replace by many players, so it is a very big blow to this offense. Now, on the field, he was this team's leader in the passing game by far. He had about 15% of his looks in the slot, and then he had about 85% on the outside. In 2018, he had 28 receptions for 449 yards. 2019, he had 28 receptions for 371 yards and 5 touchdowns. 2020, he had 22 receptions for 430 yards and a touchdown. 2021, 36 receptions, 506 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And then in 2022, he started the year off in the first 3 games with 11 receptions for 214 yards and a touchdown. That's a 12-game pace of 47 receptions, 853 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He was on pace to have the best year of his career thus far. Now, in total, his yardage that he has over the course of his career is 125 receptions for 1,970 yards and 13 touchdowns. Like, the man makes an impact on the field. Chris Autman-Bell, he is consistent. He is consistency at his finest. Coach Shiraka has talked about how Crab has flashed the potential in spring camp and fall camp, especially moments where he shows he is an alpha receiver. He is a number 1 type receiver. He can be the guy in the receiving room. So the impact that he just has on this team, it can't be overstated. Now, I just told you he had 125 receptions for 1,970 yards and 13 touchdowns over his career. If you take the next 5 receivers on our roster, the next 5 on the depth chart right now, they only have 107 receptions for 1,599 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's right, Chris Autman-Bell has more statistics, more box score numbers than the next 5 guys on the depth chart combined when it comes to career stats. That's how big of an impact, how big of a loss this injury is for the Gophers program. Now, it's not to say that all is lost. It's not to say it's impossible to have any success passing the ball because Chris Autman-Bell is down, but it's just a tall task that we have to approach in a very unique manner. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not whoever steps into his role is going to be Chris Autman-Bell. That's just not going to happen. And I want to set that realistic expectation. But now that we've covered how critical Chris Autman-Bell has been to this offense, let's talk about the players that we will need to step up in his absence. That's coming up next. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Nugenix. Are you feeling like you can't get in shape? It's not your fault. As men age, our bodies naturally lose free testosterone, the man hormone, and it happens to every man, and it can make it more difficult to stay in shape and energetic and active. We want more energy to counter the negative effects of aging, and Nugenix Total T Testosterone Booster with Testofen will help you turn back the clock and re-energize your workouts and get better results at the gym and help you look and feel like you really want to be. Nugenix Total T contains man-boosting key ingredients like Testofen, and it has been validated by 5 clinical studies shown to boost free testosterone levels in men. Nugenix Total T is also the #1 testosterone booster at GNC, and Nugenix Total T can help re-energize your life and help you get your powerful, confident, good-looking warrior you used to be. Get you back to where you want to be, get you back to the right stuff. So now get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T when you text college to 231-231. Text now and you'll get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast, and that will be absolutely free. That's right, if you text college to 231-231, you're going to get that product for free. Now, message and data rates may apply, terms apply, and you can find those available at nugenix.com/terms. And we're back. Thank you for making Locked On Golden Gophers your first listen when it comes to Gophers Daily Sports, the show where we always continue to roll. We're talking about football, we're talking about basketball, we're talking about hockey. So be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube and leave a comment on what you're excited about with the Golden Gophers. Now, we're jumping back into the people we need to step up when it comes to this Chris Autman-Bell injury, and the first person that everyone thinks of is Daylon Wright. He has 22 receptions in his career for 423 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he's basically played 100% of his snaps on the outside. Now, I say basically because I believe he has had 1 snap in the slot. So, basically 100, folks. Basically 100. Now, he has most talent in this room by far, bar none. The dude is an athletic freak. He has the ability. He has the speed. He has the hands. He has the contested catch ability to win jump balls, and the route running has been improved. But what you need to see from him is you need to see the confidence, and you need to see the consistency each and every rep. That is one thing Crab absolutely had, was the swagger and the confidence and knowing that he was that guy. He was him. And he was coming down with that ball. Now, if Wright can channel that dog, and if Wright can live up to his athletic ability and his potential, he could be very, very special. And he is a big reason on why people get excited about the wide receiver room, well, now is the time to step into that consistency, to be the alpha and be that dog mentality and walk into a bigger role. But he's not the only one. Michael Brown-Stephens had 33 receptions for 460 yards and 1 touchdown over his career. Now he's played about 85 to 90% of the snaps in the slot and that other 10 to 15 on the outside. He has the speed and he is extremely versatile. And he probably has the most consistency of the bunch, but he also makes a lot of simple mistakes and can drop the ball too often. Now that might seem like it contradicts itself a little bit, but when it comes to being in the right place, running the right route, Michael Brown-Stephens is right there. It's just the fine-tuning, the simple mistakes of drops, the simple mistakes of a fumble. Like, you can't have those big things happen, so he needs to work those type of things out. Now, his game is very complementary to Daylon Wright, and as a trio of Wright, Michael Brown-Stephens, and Daniel Jackson, they can thrive if they can be consistent because they all have games that aren't necessarily the same. In fact, they all have strengths that others don't have. So we talked about Daylon Wright and how he has the talent, the speed, the hands, and the ability to win in the contested catch. Then you've got the speed that he doesn't have and the more precision from Michael Brown-Stephens. And then you move into Daniel Jackson, who has 39 receptions, 460 yards, and 1 touchdown in his career so far. He has the upside and talent, but he hasn't had a whole lot of opportunity. But he might be the best route runner of this group, which could be the key in creating the separation. Now, he also holds his own in run blocking, which should keep him on the field more and more. Last game, we didn't see a whole lot of him because Coach PJ Fleck did say he was on a pitch count. Now, he won't be on one next week, and that has also been stated by Coach Fleck. So, again, if that run blocking is keeping him on the field in that instance, then you should also see him on the field for more snaps in the route running, in the opportunities to catch passes. We've seen him solely on the outside in the game this year, but he was moved all over the field last year. It will be curious to see if now he gets more works in the slot. So now you can see how those 3 wide receivers complement each other with their play styles, but they're not the only players that are going to see a boost in snaps and in possible production, because I believe Clay Geary and Lemke Brockington will also likely find their way on the field more with this injury. So we're replacing the void that Chris Autman-Bell leaves with potentially 5 guys all getting more looks, more opportunities, and being asked to step up. You can't just say one guy. You can't just say Daylon Wright, go do what he did. We need all 5 of these guys to walk into different roles, to walk into different opportunities, and to all be better. If they all can increase their level by even 10%, if they all can get better by 10%, that is going to make a massive impact on this wide receiver room. Now, Clay Geary has 10 receptions for 130 yards and 1 touchdown in his career, and this is year 7. So he hasn't had a whole lot of opportunity. Now, 95% of his reps have been in the slot and about 5 to 10% on the outside. Coach Straka has talked about how he is very consistent and he is a very, very hard worker, which is exactly what this room needs. If the others can't find that consistency, then you might see Clay Geary getting more and more opportunities just because he's shown and proven over the course of this year, this 2022 year, starting back in January, that he can be consistent and get the job done when asked and called upon. Now, that means he could carve out a bigger role, and that mainly, again, is lining up in the slot. We'll see what happens there. We'll see if that comes to be. But a very interesting player, and the last player I want to discuss, is Lemke Brockington, who had 3 receptions for 47 yards so far in his career, and I believe most of that is this year, if not all of it is this year. Now, about 20% of those looks have been in the slot, and about 80% have been on the outside. Coach Straka has talked about how hard of a worker Brockington is, and he shows flashes. He just needs the reps in live games. There have been specific plays drawn up this season in games 2 and 3 to see if he can handle the pressure, if he can catch the ball in the high moments as we head towards Big Ten season. If that trend continues and he continues to do the right things, he continues to handle the pressure, then they may be able to see more and more snaps for Brockington in the upcoming games. And he has the ability to line up both inside and outside, similar to Crab. So his game in general is also probably the most similar to Crab of all 5 of these options. So it will be interesting to see if he gets a fairly healthy boost in production, and that'll be something to keep an eye on this week at Michigan State. You'll see the main 3, but maybe Lemke Brockington steps into that kind of 4th role with Clay Geary filling in and taking more snaps here and there. But one player I did want to bring up outside of them as well is Brevin Spann, who in his career thus far has had 36 receptions for 457 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now a lot of that production has come last season and so far this season. Now clearly Brevin won't be taking snaps at wide receiver, or at least not in a large portion of them outside of the packages that he's already in, we've been running with him on the outside or in the slot. Now he will still step up into that, but I don't think that they're going to have him take on additional role or additional snaps that would have been Chris Autman-Bell. But when it comes to production, I believe he may take on the lead role in receiving production. I think he might have the most receiving production for the team as we look back at the end of the season. So we know about the void that's been left. We know about who will need to step up, but what is a realistic outcome and what we could be looking at with the loss of Crab, that's what we're going to talk about next. First, let me talk to you about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline is bringing you the latest trends and action for all things sports. They've got esports, they've got FIFA, they've got football, they've got basketball, they've got baseball, hockey, you name it. You can find the latest numbers and wagering information over at BetOnline. Now, that comes to things like futures, like the Heisman odds, where Bryce Young has slipped behind Caleb Williams in the latest odds. That comes with college football championship odds, in which USC has moved themselves into the 5th best odds in the nation. But it also comes with some fun, interesting odds as well, like the next coach to be fired at the NCAA level, where Jeff Collins of Georgia Tech leads the way. Who else is in there? Well, you've got Brian Harsin at Auburn, Neil Brown with West Virginia, and David Shaw with Stanford. So those are just some of the top guys that have been given the highest odds for being the next coach fired. You can find more interesting stats like that and latest odds and all of that over at BetOnline. If you're looking to lay some money down, BetOnline is the place to do it. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so we've talked about the impact Chris Autman-Bell leaves. We've talked about the guys that we need to step up in his role in his absence, but what is a realistic outcome? What is something that is legitimate that we could see for this Gophers team? Here's what it comes down to. A lot of fans want to know who will jump in right away, who fills the role and takes it over, but it's not that simple. What Crab brings to this team is unique, and it will take the effort of many to step up. The role won't be filled only by one player, but by multiple players, and we'll need them to step up in different situations depending on the game plan, depending on the opponent, depending on the need. So it's going to be different each and every game. And this is what Coach PJ Fleck had to say at the last press conference about how they're going to try to approach to fill that void.
It's unfortunate. Your heart breaks for him, because he's worked incredibly hard. But we have a lot of people on this football team, and Chris would tell you the exact same thing. There's a lot of people on this football team here in year 6 that can make a ton of plays for us. And I think you've seen that in the first 3 games, the distribution of the football and the ability for a lot of these guys to be playmakers. And, if this happens, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe in a different, it has a different vibe. But again, there's a lot of guys who can make a ton of plays. Chris is a major leader on this team, and he will continue to be a major leader of this team. And I know he's really anxious to get the surgery on Wednesday and start moving towards rehab and getting better.
So as you can see, exactly what I was just saying, we're going to need many to step up, many to be better, many to take on the next role. The wide receivers that we will see take up bigger snaps and portions are the 4-5 that we mentioned in the last segment. And to start, I think you're going to see a lot more of Daylon Wright on the field in general. Now, the most common trio that we will probably see that we saw so far on the field was Chris Autman-Bell, Daylon Wright, and Michael Brown-Stephens. Now, part of that has to do because Daniel Jackson was coming back from injury, but that will likely shift now to Daylon Wright, Daniel Jackson, and Michael Brown-Stephens. Now, I think Clay Geary and Lemke Brockington will see snaps increases as well, but how much will depend on the matchup. But Coach Ciarrocca has been impressed with them. He's mentioned them on multiple occasions, and now Coach Ciarrocca seems to have real intrigue into Brockington and his ability, and if he can show consistency, which has been stressed in a major message to the room, then I think that he could really open up an opportunity for himself, especially with what seems to be a similar play style to Crab. To me, I think until you see consistency from someone in this room to take a step up and do it each and every rep, it will be situational. But I believe both Daylon Wright and Daniel Jackson have the ability to be the guy, to be that guy, to be wide receiver one if they can put it all together. But that is a major if. Production-wise, I think Brevin Spann will likely lead the team in receiving yardage, as he is a mismatch for most teams, and he finds himself on the field more and more with his run blocking more improved than ever. And right now he is the second leading receiver or receiving pass option, I guess, on the entire Gophers team right now. He was in the top 3 or 4 last season, and now Crab gone, he's probably going to be one of the top 2 receiving total leaders when it comes to the box score. It's a big ask. It's something we will keep an eye on as we move forward. I'm sure we'll talk about it more as the weeks go on, but the Gophers are definitely going to miss Crab, and hopefully it will not be our last time seeing him show out for the Maroon and Gold. They will be applying for a waiver of eligibility for next season for a 7th year due to the medical injury. But in the end, that comes down to Crab and if it is something that he wants to do, if it is granted. So hopefully we'll see him on the field again. That's going to do it for us on Locked On Golden Gophers. This is Kane Rob signing off. Tomorrow we're going to talk about predictions for the MSU game with Tristan Spann. I look forward to it, and I can't wait to see you there. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts and as well on YouTube. This is going to do it for us. Row the boat. Sky Ma. Go Gophers.